Hi, this is Nancy Dodge. I'm talking to you from Eagle River. I'm about to head out to Nome, and I just wanted to thank you all for tuning in to this classification talk. Basically, I wanted to let everybody know that I was born in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, a long time ago. And after finishing high school, I took off on my own to have many adventures before finishing college and deciding it was time to get gainful employment. My first job was that of a elementary school teacher. I taught 5th and 6th grade in a migrant community in upstate New York. And in working with children, I quickly learned that many of their issues were around language and reading. So I went back to school and I got my master's degree at Cornell in reading and special education. And after doing so, and then working in Rochester, New York with junior high, middle school age students, I began to realize that a lot of their problems were not academic, but in fact they were due to mental illness and to behavior issues. So I packed up my bags again and decided to do research on children and find out what my next challenges would be. So I entered into a doctoral program and decided to be a psychologist. During that time, I was employed by the Department of Corrections in New Jersey, and I worked with juveniles ages 6 to 15. And during that time, it became very apparent that these young people had multiple issues that could not only be addressed through mental health and education, but also in family therapy. So my next adventure happened when the Department of Corrections thought I should start working with older children that were sex offenders, and I decided that was not my forte. So instead, I took off and moved to Alaska. And in 1980, I moved out to Palmer, where I worked in the special education department of the Matsu School District as what they called a staff development coordinator. So for the past, 34 years, I've worked in the field of education, corrections, and mental health, working primarily with students. One of the things that was a challenge for me and why I chose the profession of psychology was because I had many wonderful opportunities in both the clinical side and the education side. So what drew me to working with schools was that it really gave me an opportunity to see children, I hate to say in their natural environment, but I got to see them a lot more when they were out and about rather than in a 50-minute clinical session. So my choice became that of a school psychologist. Some of the questions as far as the classification talk are, why do I find psychology so rewarding? And what do I find most difficult or challenging? Well, most rewarding obviously is working with kids and seeing the growth that they can make when they're given some opportunities that help them overcome some of the problems they face both in their home and in a school environment. Probably what's most difficult is just the opposite side of that, which is students who don't have all the opportunities and seeing the difficulties they face, and that they really don't do as well as you think they should or could. What I like least about psychology is the report writing, so I don't think I'm different there than many of my other colleagues. I much prefer working with people than I do writing. So another question is what the profession of school psychologist or clinical psychologist looks like in the next decade. And I would say huge. There is a huge need. The mental health needs here in Alaska are greater than ever. We face the same problems we've been facing for the past 35 years, but I think even more so. The problems within family development and school are blatant. And I know several weeks ago we were also talking about suicide and suicide prevention. That's also a big issue. So the field of mental health is wide open and there is a huge need. Advice to people going into the profession? I would say specifically those that would be interested in going into school psychology, I would highly recommend that you teach for a few years. It's very difficult to work in a school environment when you have not been involved at all in the classroom. So that would be a great opportunity. The other question, I guess, that I was asked was, what is the impact on technology, government regulations, and environmental factors when it comes to psychology? Technology is a whole new field for us, not just the fact that I have to learn how to use it, but it's also caused a lot of isolation in students who are turning more and more to social media rather than interacting with their peers. Technology is a new tool used to also bully, and that's a huge issue. And then finally, I guess another question with regard to psychology is ethical considerations and how it sort of fits into Rotary and our four-way test in our code of conduct. I would say there are great parallels between both of those areas. Psychologists really have a very strict code of ethics, and I find that they dovetail very nicely with Rotary. So, what got me to Rotary is the fact that I am the Alaska State Ambassador to Shelterbox, which is an international humanitarian disaster relief organization that provides temporary shelter for those that have experienced a natural disaster or a humanitarian crisis. Shelterbox is a global partner with Rotary. 42% of our monies come from donations from Rotarians or for local grants. Most of the talks that I have been giving over the past year and a half are to Rotaries. And I got involved with Rotary through Shelterbox and realizing that my values and the values of Rotary are pretty much one and the same. So my presentation and the speaker that's going to present later in this presentation will be about Shelterbox and how we got started, what we do, and how we partner with Rotary. So, thanks very much.